using binoculars, and suddenly saw what appeared to me to be a camouflaged train, snow camouflage painted on the top of it and all, but it looked to me like a train standing still. Its camouflage was just not good enough, and I looked more carefully at it and became convinced without any question that there was a train standing on these tracks. And I could see what appeared to be about 2 miles beyond that a large tunnel. That had not been camouflaged, and I could see a tunnel. Even the tracks were covered with snow and all, but I quickly, using my throat mic, called back to 9th Air Force Bomber Command underground back in England, but pointing out what I thought I was seeing, and gave the location coordinates and everything there. And it was just simply beautiful what happened in about 2 minutes after that. I saw 3 P-38s, and of course with their double fuselage, I've always thought they were a beautiful looking fighter plane to begin. And they dove in. Well, I should say that just before this, apparently they decided, the people on the train decided they had been spotted, and suddenly we just saw real black smoke just pouring out of 2 locomotives. It had a double locomotive, and it was pulling apparently a very long train, and it began getting up steam and going as fast as it could toward this tunnel, trying to get in there before it might be intercepted or something. But these P-38s, 3 of them, went down, and it was kind of like slow motion. We were up around 12,000 feet, and they dove in ahead of us and dropped bombs on that train, and suddenly we discovered exactly what type of train it was. It was just like in slow motion. We saw the first train car, box car, whatever, behind the locomotive just suddenly rise up, it looked like, in the air a short distance, and then suddenly completely through the train, it completely exploded. It was an ammunition train, and it was something fantastic to see. And those P-38s just went in there and bombed it and strafed it and got it so it completely exploded. Another quick description of a mission. We were skip bombing over the water. We were skip bombing 1/2 ton, 1,000-pound bombs. We carried 2 1,000-pound bombs, and we were to skip bomb submarine pen gates on the French coast, and we were crossing the channel. Perhaps at the area where we were crossing the channel may have been around only 50 or 60 miles, but we were going in single file to a whole squadron, but going in to skip bomb and hit these submarine pen gates. They were impossible to pound or break open from above because of high hills or small mountains across from Dover and Canterbury in that area over. These were the pens, I believe, of St. Nazaire and St. Laurent. But just as we headed across the English Channel in single file, and our particular plane was in line there, and we already had bomb bay doors open, but we still had a little distance to go before we would arrive over there, and theoretically we would be only under enemy fire for around 7 seconds before we'd turn 180 degrees, rise up, and shoot back over toward England. But the Germans weren't firing at individual planes then. Instead, they put up what we call a barrage wall, or a complete wall of explosions, and you had to go in and out of that as you were skip bombing the submarine pen gates. And as we headed across, a waist gunner in our plane. For me, this was only probably, my missions were in around the 20s, but he had flown already over 50 missions, I forget exactly how many, and he had been on a mission to this same target 2 days before that had been unsuccessful, where they'd been unable to break the submarine gates, and so he had experienced this barrage wall of explosions once before. As we were headed toward there, he dove out of the plane. He was extremely fortunate. He saw the wall of explosions and was scared to death. He dove out of the plane. He was extremely fortunate. I called on throat mic as we continued on their British Air Sea rescue, and they picked him up in about 3 to 4 minutes after he was in those cold, icy waters. And he came in. He was flak happy. He couldn't, when he finally arrived back, taken back to England by British rescue, he couldn't lift up a cup of coffee or anything. He was completely flak happy, but he finally got out of that. But at a court-martial that was called for him, because this would be desertion in the face of the enemy, I was asked to testify, but I witnessed the fact that as just before he dove out, he gave an extremely inhuman scream or cry over his throat mic and dove out, and I simply testify that he was out of his mind. He'd had a terrible experience on a mission, the same place 2 days before, and had been in through those flak wall, barrage wall explosions, and was not responsible for his actions, and finally no action was taken against him. And just a passing comment in relating any instance, I always hated a night mission where you flew in single file to a target. I only flew 2 night missions that I recall. I always hated a night mission because, first of all, you are not sure where the plane is behind you or ahead of you. Each one of you is supposed to be staircased up and down in single file, and a whole squadron maybe of 18, well, half a squadron of 18 or a whole squadron of 36 B-26 bombers going in toward a target. But you wonder if the guy that's supposed to be 500 feet ahead of you and 500 feet higher than you or lower than you is in his position. And every time you're going along that you see a flash of light on the ground, particularly if it's an orange or red flash, you're not sure. You're just sitting there crunched within your flak suit, wondering if this is a flak gun that's going off and shortly the explosion will be at your plane, or as the Germans did from time to time, they would flick searchlights on and off as signal to maybe their fighter planes up in the air nearby. And so sometimes they would just flick a searchlight, or on the other hand, it may be a flak gun exploding with a big orange-red flame that you suddenly see for a second, and then you're waiting for whatever the time interval might be, 12 to 20 seconds before the flak may explode at your altitude or near you. So I always hated a night mission, but I apparently came out on them all okay and never had an injury. And that's pretty much all I can just suggest relating as far as incidents.
Okay, now you arrived first with B-26 at Barksdale Field?
No, that was my last base I was based at before going overseas.
No, but I mean, that was where you first encountered the B-26?
Actually, probably yes.
And you were at Barksdale going through RTU, replacement training unit, or?
This is right, and crazy enough, I was there for about 5 months. I was there